I didn't ask for any of this. The title has no practical value. The business is broken.
Yeah, I'd heard the guy was going to adapt The Gentleman in long form. I kind of liked the concept of that, and then when I read the pilot and kind of heard about the conceit, I found it even more interesting. The idea that you have someone completely separate from a criminal world, a kind of relatively moral man, but someone who's shouldered with all the problems of inherent wealth and everything that kind of upper society brings, thrown into the complex and wealthy underworld, and how he gets kind of seduced by it and then eventually overtaken by it. That story was interesting to me. And then beyond that was Guy's style of filming, you know, the fun of it, the bombastic nature, the hard cuts, the great music that he's always on top of, you know, all those elements.
First of all, why were you interested in being part of the project? What drew you to it?
That's your question.
I suppose Guy Ritchie. Simple answer. I knew it would be an exciting ride. I didn't know exactly how it would unfold. Getting to work with Vinnie, Theo, Kaya, a whole team, but mainly Guy, and then the scripts. It was mysterious. I couldn't quite understand the world or my character, but I knew it would go somewhere fun with Guy.
Mine was an old pals act. I got a text months before to say, "Oh, I might have something for you." And then it developed from there. He kept sending me little bits saying it's this, and as he knew, he let me know. So I kind of was on board very, very early.
Did Guy know that you'd been a gamekeeper?
About a year earlier, nearly, I think.
Did Guy know you were a gamekeeper when you were
Yeah.
And
in real life, that was how he started.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And is it surprising how it evolves? Because obviously I haven't seen everything, but are we going to be surprised?
I don't think it was surprising to you, right?
No, I knew where it would go. Yeah, I knew, but I kept getting told little bits, so I kind of knew where it was kind of headed. But you know, look, you start off 2 episodes with Guy, and then and then you got 6 episodes with 3 other guys, haven't you? We had 3 other directors, blokes. And, everyone's, I wish Guy could come back and everything else. But then what they don't realise, Guy goes back in the edit. So he goes in the edit room. So, it's his...
He's still very much in control
massively.
of the thing.
Massively.
Yeah. We did have four male directors, and if we go season 2, I'm going to pitch to direct a couple. I think that we need a female director in there.
Yeah, you do a couple,
Always.
I do a couple.
So to start off, why were you both interested in being part of the project?
I mean, I think I was, to work with Guy Ritchie, but also I was kind of drawn to this character in a Guy Ritchie world, to be able to kind of play in these sort of extremes in something that he was making. I kind of looked at it and thought, like, yeah, this is going to be playtime. And, and I was right. It was. How about you, man?
For me, sorry, can you just repeat the question again so I could just hear?
Why you were interested in being part of the project initially?
For me, I would say the keywords were Guy Ritchie, The Gentleman TV series, Netflix. And then I saw my character, Jimmy Shang, and I was just like, this character's so cool. I would love to play this character, and I got the job. So here we are, super happy, super grateful.
Amazing. And can you both tell me a little bit about your characters and the kind of process of taking them off the page, as it were?
I think for me the key with Freddie was the sort of pain of being the black sheep of the family, and being the non-favoured son, the unfavoured son, despite being, coming from this sort of this world of the aristocracy where it's like the firstborn son is whatever it is, primogenitum, whatever he says. I'm going to get it wrong if I say it now. but the pain of knowing that you are the wrong-un of the family and that you have this younger brother who everyone kind of looks up to. I think for me, I felt that was the kind of key to him, that the comedy and the darkness comes from that, and that felt like something that is more universal than some of the rest of the trappings, the house, the car, the pot, you know, the name, the title, all that stuff. Like, actually, a little boy who just wanted to impress his dad and never did, and the younger brother just kind of did it without thinking about it. That to me was like, I think that's an interesting dynamic, you know.
Definitely.
I think Jimmy, for me, there's actually like a little bit of Jimmy in me. He's a bit dull.
Which bit?
He's a bit dolphy. He's a bit dolphy, kind-hearted. I think I have those sort of traits when I'm sort of joking around with the kids or a few friends. So seeing that on paper was sort of very interesting. And then when I actually got on set and they showed me the costume and the hair. The costume was by Lulu and the hair was by Neve. And when they pulled that all together, it was just, this is beautiful. I've never done this before. This is all new to me, but it would be so cool to have people I know see me in this light. So yeah, can't wait for it to come out.
Well, I was interested because I'd worked with Guy before on Operation Fortune, and I loved the experience of working with him. And I really enjoyed the film when the film came out. And the idea of it being an 8-part series was terrific. And then they sent me the breakdown of the character. And I thought, I can do something with him. And so I just wanted to jump into it straight away. And that was it, really. I just wanted to work with Guy again. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the process with him. It's not just another crime caper, because there are two very distinct worlds that we're looking at. There's aristocracy here and that world, and we really do have a little look into that. I mean, it's heightened, of course, because it's television and we're making stuff that hopefully will pull people in. And then there's the criminal fraternity, which can be funny, but also can be quite terrifying. And I think my character is, and certainly Ray's character and Giancarlo's character as well, more on that edge of the scale. And so you've got a plethora of things that will hopefully pull the audience member in each week and wanting to watch another one.
Anna, tell us a bit about it.
So Henry, I read the character, boxing promoter, and my very good friend, I used to call him Uncle Pat Brogan, he was a Stoke man, he was a fighter. He fought a great British middleweight called Alan Minter a few times. And then when he retired, he became a boxing promoter. So, I mean, at 15 and 16 and 17, I was meeting Marvin Hagler, Larry Holmes, Jake LaMotta. I was meeting all these incredible fighters because Pat would bring them over for the weekend. And I'd hang around and I'd watch them. And then I trained as a boxer a little bit when I was younger. Not like Ray. Ray was an amateur fighter. But I trained with Clay O'Shea, and then I trained with Tony Jeffries in Los Angeles. And I love the art form of boxing, you know. And of course, as in every area of business, one will have the sort of darker element, and that is certainly there in the boxing world. There's no doubt about it. And I've met quite a few of those people as well. And you can then draw on that when you're looking at something and going, oh, I can personalise that. Certainly the way I work as an actor, I studied in New York. I didn't go to RADA. I went to one of the teachers from the Actors Studio that's one of the best. And you can then personalise things and draw upon your experiences with what you've seen and try and make it as real as possible, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And how does he... Were you guys fans of the film? And what do you think of the elements about this that work so well together? Because there's a lot of different things that play here.
Well, it's my world, you know. It's the boxing, the travellers, the posh geezers, the Londoners, and all that. So that was my first kind of movie. So I'm well at home. But you're completely out the box, aren't you? Oh, this is Postbridges.
Oh, shut up! He loves to write this narrative about me. Vinnie said this, but the thing is, it is true. The first day I arrived on set, it was like, it's a production. production. There are a lot of boys' toys, you know. There are massive cranes everywhere, cherry pickers, vehicles. It's like, if I were a guy, I would imagine it is your idea of heaven. And as a result, our crew were very, very excited by all these giant toys. And yeah, it just, and how it unfolds. You know, every series, the tricky thing is how you get the ending of the series. And because we as viewers, I know me as a viewer, I just really wanted to pay off. And I haven't seen it yet, so I obviously I know the story. But I think they're all too clever not to deliver.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the royal element adds to it?
Royal? What?
Yeah.
Royal?
What royal element?
What royal element?
Well, the family.
The sort of titles.
Yeah.
I think you've said this, I've never heard it out of his mouth, but I think he loves that world and he loves the other world, the two opposites. And my sort of byline is Downton Abbey and Peaky Blinders combined.
Well, he loves he loves the funniness of the way the posh people act, you know.
How nutty, how eccentric.
Yeah, how eccentric. I think Guy loves the eccentric stuff. It's hilarious.
And I sort of love that he loves the eccentric stuff. I hadn't seen that on the page, and he kept encouraging us to go further and further. That was a really fun bit of it.
Yeah, I think it's quite different from the film in that way. I think it's very much a piece of Guy. He's not from that world, but over the years he's you know, assimilated somewhat into this kind of high-end society thing. You know, dukes, barons. I've never met anyone in that world, but he has, and then he kind of knows a little bit of the other side, the criminal underworld. So the mix of those two. But I think they're kind of fascinating elements because, you know, the crumbling aristocracy of British culture as the dying, fading empire, but then all the problems with inherited wealth and everything, mixed with crime and how it is building new money and controlling the upper class is a kind of interesting conceit, you know, because they're literally underground underneath this dukedom, but also they are controlling him at the same time. I found that kind of fascinating.
And how did you take the character off the page, as it were? Did you resonate with anything about him?
I think just the idea of a moral man being seduced by violence and power, and how through the series he believes he never will be, but by the end he is totally seduced and overcome by it, essentially. I also kind of, the idea of indentured wealth and these people being controlled by criminals is kind of a fun idea. And it's kind of a knock on the British empirical thing, you know, this idea that the upper class think that they are better than the lower, but the lower are essentially, you know, stronger and building them up in some ways. But we shot in, you know, the family seat, for example, is the Duke of Beaufort's place, right? So he's a real duke, which I found kind of fascinating. I never met him, but apparently Guy had got pissed with him at some point. So it was a world he knew, but a world that, in a way, you can't believe still exists in modern Britain. It's fascinating. What
do you think you would do put in those circumstances? Tricky question, but
I think I'd burn it all down. I don't know. It's the idea of inheriting wealth over many generations and centuries almost is so problematic to how we understand wealth that I think it's quite dangerous in a way. So I enjoyed the way that this series is kind of sending that up. It says, you know, in the trailer, and then it's in episode 5, I think, you know, the aristocracy of the original gangsters in the sense that they set up a system where they could control wealth intergenerationally, and that's a kind of interesting conceit.
And what are the elements of this that make it such a good story, do you think? Because there's a lot going on, lots of layers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's I think that idea of the sort of aristocracy being the kind of OG mafia in this country is a great, for me, I'm like, that's a genius idea to kind of
Great
draw
story.
those parallels. But I think also within that, yeah, the kind of family dynamics, you know what I mean? The idea of like a dysfunctional family where actually, if these people could communicate, if they could operate in a slightly more down-to-earth way with each other, maybe things would be slightly simpler, but that the stakes become high because of these kind of family dynamics. So, you know, and it's fun too. I think it is a fun and entertaining show.
I think it's super cool to sort of highlight this stuff for the telly, to show that the super rich sometimes aren't very clean to get to where they've got to, and there's many people involved, and you can sort of see like rich mixing with these sort of gangsters, these Cockney gangsters, and that actually happens in the real world, and there's not many TV shows or movies that sort of highlight this sort of stuff. So I think Guy tapping into this is a really good storyteller.
I don't know, there is something very appealing. You look at movies like Goodfellas, you like those guys, you know, and I mean, someone was talking to me about it the other day, about Griselda, and saying, you know, wasn't she, well, she was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, but interestingly, she did shoot 2-year-old children to death. So not that amazing, do you know what I mean? So when you really pull the onion peels back and look at what the core elements are of these sociopathic psychotics, they're not that appealing. But the glamour, and they're quite sexy in some way. You know, there's something, I think it's the power. And when I was a youngster and I used to meet some quite savoury characters, which I did when I was younger, I always was quite impressed by the power. But then when you get older and you realise, no, then it's not really, they don't stand for what I want to be. I just want to be kind and gentle to people.
Exactly.
You